Hey there, Rob Yontz with Stress Made Simple and True North Fitness and Health. This is the first part of our enhanced analysis training program. We're looking at the Elite HRV Pro dashboard, and we're looking at the dashboard screen itself. There's three screens available here. There's today's information, weekly information, and the past month's information. So looking at analysis tools here, it's a lot of the same information you have on your mobile, but it's presented in a much more friendly, analytical way. You still have your readiness compass. You know, today I was a 9 parasympathetic. 9's always green, so one would think, hey, cool, I can go kill it. But as you've heard in almost any of the videos that we've made, this is a very relative indication. Do not benchmark or crutch off of here. There's so many variables that affect the information. It's nice to kind of look at, but it's a grain of salt at the most. I personally gamify it kind of. I just look at it as a point of interest. I don't use it at all in my analysis. So the most important thing you look at when you look at your numbers is what's my today's number, what's my weekly number, and what's my lifetime average. So the best way to look at these things is my lifetime average is a 67. That's who I am normally. I have several years worth of data in here. I've rarely missed a reading. So this is extremely reflective of me over a long period of time. So 67 is a very reliable number. So right now, my baseline in the last 7 days, and this is a cumulative or a running 7-day average, is a 68. So the last 7 days have been fairly representative of my lifetime. So it's very good representation of me. Today's number is only 1 point higher than that. So I'm still relatively close to where I am over time and for the last week. And then what does this all mean in the algorithm of things? You look at the coefficient of variation. My coefficient of variation at this current time, and it's a 7-day running average, is 2.6. 2.6 is a pretty low number. So that means I'm normally, within the last 7 days, my numbers are normally pretty tight. And when we get over to the video that's going to cover the data, you'll see that, yeah, I've been a 69 or a 68 for the last several days. So that number indicates that had I measured like maybe a 72 or 3, not that many points above what I was yesterday at a 68, but that would have forced me over into a very strong relative evaluation of a yellow parasympathetic number. So with that, this is simply looking at me saying, okay, you're normally really close. You either aren't going through many things that are causing you strong swings, so therefore your coefficient of variation is small, or of all the things that are coming at you, you're very resilient. You bounce back, you know the techniques, or you have the system to handle that, and you come back to normal. So that's what the coefficient of variation is telling me, that during these 7 days, I'm responding well to the stresses coming at me, and or I don't have much stress coming at me, but either way, I'm recovering very well. So a strong shift of any degree would be an alarm, a red flag, and it would shift me either strongly parasympathetic or strongly sympathetic, but that's not the case. I was a 69. So that's how the coefficient of variation affects these numbers. For instance, we have some clients that have coefficient of variations over 10%, which is an alarm point, over 15%. So if my coefficient of variation was a 15, I could probably have scored a 75 and gotten a green 9 like this. So that's part of the individualization of your numbers. Now, apart from that, I'm not saying that any number for a coefficient of variation is good. The gold standard in the industry, and this is for like competitive athletes and stuff, is 7%. Those who study these things say that over 7%, there's enough of a variation in your numbers that in itself is adding to your cumulative stress level enough that it's affecting you. In normal everyday life, Shannon and I going through things, we notice that peaking over 7 and 8, it seems to not affect people as much. But once they get over 10 and stay over 10, it's what we call parking there. If you get above a 10 and park there, that is enough cumulative stress, chronic low level stress over time, that it's really starting to affect things. And we see people's power numbers drop, their heart rate variability continue to drop. So that's our red flag number is 10% as far as staying there. Now, as far as a 1 day or a 2 day hit, if you get over 15, and especially any higher than that, that's enough of a concern for 1 day that you did not recover sufficiently enough from the prior day's events or the cumulative of several days' events that we need to take extra care to get that number back below 10. So again, 10% chronically over time, parking there. You need to enhance your recovery tactics or find ways to get out of some of the stress coming at you. The over 15 on any given day, and especially over anything higher than that, over 20, is something that's just the alert that says, hey, you need to do extra stuff today to get this number lower because this is beginning to be a concern. Heart rate also goes along with heart rate variability as a co-indicator. So increasing heart rate and decreasing heart rate variability, classic signs of accumulating stress and not getting rid of it. So numbers here, roughly speaking, we look to see if it's in the 70s or higher, we have a concern and want to understand what's driving such a high heart rate. Sometimes it's simply the stress that's coming at you. Sometimes it's simply some medications you're on. Sometimes, most oftentimes, it's a combination of things. So it's peeling back the layers and finding out what is the main driver and can we do something about it. I'm pleased to announce that my heart rate is 55 today. It's down from yesterday, and it continues a series of going down because Shannon and I quite often run tests and experiments on how things affect us and what may or may not affect clients and how we can improve our analytical skills. So quite often our numbers are jumping up and down quite a bit, but I'm getting back to where I normally am, which is mid to low 50s. And that's a very healthy place. You know, into the 40s is fine as well. Into the 60s, depending on who you are, what your exercise activities, your lifestyle, your genetics, 60s can be good. But over 70s almost universally is high enough that it's having some degree of an effect on your health, same as that coefficient of variation getting over 10 or 15. So that's that first row. Second row, I'll take the easy one here first, signal quality. You're just looking to see if you're in the green, how many artifacts in that. If you're in the green, you're fine. This is something Elite does to help you understand the quality of your reading. If it's ever in the yellow or the red, you read either just not pay attention to that reading because there's enough of an indicator there that it might not be accurate, or something went wrong. Maybe your core sense needs charging or something happened. You might want to consider deleting that and taking a new measurement, but only because the signal quality is bad, not because you don't like your numbers. Looking at power, very obscure, misunderstood, misinterpreted type of information here. My power today is 11,500. It's down 11% from yesterday. I was much stronger power. So the trend of how things are changing is important to consider. I did not sleep very well last night. So that's likely why my power numbers are a little bit lower. And my ratio, power ratio is lower. So low frequency power is 9,500. High frequency is 1,900. If you've been through the basics or the mobile platform training, you recall that the high frequency power relates or corresponds mostly to the parasympathetic branch, which is the branch that is rest, digest, grow type of activities. The low frequency corresponds to the sympathetic branch, which is the stress, fight, flight response. So Low frequency is almost always going to be higher than the high frequency because the low frequency is all the sympathetic and some of the parasympathetic. High frequency is all parasympathetic. So usually the low frequency would be a little bit higher. A perfect ratio, power ratio, LF to HF, a perfect ratio in the morning is between 1 and 2. That's very nice recovery and very much a good balance between your powers starting the day. Readings taken throughout the day, these numbers are going to swing dramatically. Mine's a 4.8, just under 5. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. These numbers will change and fluctuate day to day. That's just part of being a human and being alive. So minor adjustments up and down are no big deal. It's significant changes or long-term trends for change that really drive a lot of attention. While you know the perfect ratio is between 1 and 2, that's optimal. But safe, good, and healthy is still a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. Those numbers are all perfectly fine. I quite often get 7s or 8s. It's just attention getting, and I correlate that to where's my power. If I have a very high imbalance and my power numbers are lower than usual, or one of these is lower than it normally is, that's an indication that I really need to back off, regardless of what the rest of these numbers are. But if that is any funky in my power numbers, that's an indication that if they're low, I need to back off on what's going on. I need to find ways to enhance my recovery and not strain my vagus nerve and my central nervous system as much as I may have otherwise intended. And that's despite what the compass tells me and despite what my HRV tells me. That power is that deeper indicator telling you what's going on. I've had days where my power's been a 4 or a 5,000. My high frequency's been less than 1,000 into the hundreds, and my low frequency has been an adequate 2 or 3,000 number. But because my parasympathetic branch is so weak, I really make sure I rest that day. I get an extra walk in, or I take a nap, or I do something as far as trying to recover that. And then my evaluation as far as how well did Rob do as far as handling that is my measurement tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, I get the feedback on if things went right. If I did good enough or better than good enough, my numbers will return slightly. They will move in a positive direction. I might not get all my numbers back, but if they move in the positive direction, my HF gets stronger, my balance comes in more balanced more, then I know, okay, I did the right things yesterday, and I need to do more things like that in the future. And then because when you record exercise in the morning, that attaches to the prior day, there's obviously nothing for today yet. This will show up and fill in when I fill in tomorrow morning. And then you can record reading notes that add context to your reading. So when you go back over time, if you're looking at trend information, you can read that. So all you got to do is click in it and type something. Today's notes. Click on the outside. It saves it. You can see the green indication up there. And boom, voila, whatever expletive you like to add to it. That'll stay attached to this day and this reading until I change it. So that's how you look at today. If you're looking on the computer, you're using your personal pro, that's how you evaluate today. Heart rate variability, we're not looking for strong, large changes in a day. We're looking for micro changes in a higher direction over time. Lifetime average is what really matters as far as who you are normally. And that 7-day average is just an indication of how you've been handling the last 7 days. Coefficient of variation is showing you how well you're handling things and what's coming at you. The larger the number, the more swing day to day, which means you're likely not handling things that are coming your way very well. Or it simply means you might be doing really hard work, doing a lot trying to help you recover, but those recovery tactics are not working for you right now. And then we talked about the rest of it. And the way you look at the trend as far as the pro dashboard goes, these are my weekly numbers. So my week numbers, those should correlate pretty closely. Lifetime average is not going to change because that's your lifetime average. My coefficient of variation for the week is the same. That's a 7-day average number, so that should be about the same. My heart rate is 58, so that's showing I've been going down for the week. My numbers for power, roughly the same as today, so my week is pretty steady. And my balance is a little bit higher, so the balance of my numbers has been off a little bit. And then exercise, I put in 3.5 hours of exercise, and it's all been really low intensity because so far in this early week, all I've done is walk. And I've got a good baseline consistency. The month numbers, again, this is a great way to kind of review looking at your month. You don't need to look at your month every day or every week, but as you look back, how have I been doing over the prior 30 days? Well, my HRV is a 66. My lifetime average is 67. For the last week, it's a 68. So these numbers are all pretty tight. The 66 says that the last 30 days, just very mildly lower than my lifetime average. So there's been some extra stress, or what stress came at me, I handled just barely less than I do normally. But the last week has been stronger, so I'm finishing the month strong. Coefficient of variation, 3.3% over the 30 days. That's a very, very good number. Heart rate, 60. That's good. It's not where I personally want to be. I like to see my average heart rate around 55 or less. And the numbers for the month are about the same as they are for the last week. 9,200 or so in the total power, 7,600 and 1,600 for LF and HF, and the balance is 5. Total exercise and intensity, if you track those things, we track our exercise and our sleep quality so that we can pull that in the trends and the data and see how that works. But this is how you use your dashboard. Very powerful to look at your day number and get that assessment and look at that and say, okay, how do I do today? And then also we talked about how this indicates to me how I did in my recovery tactics from yesterday. If my HRV is up, my heart rate is down, my frequency power is up, and my ratio is lower, those are all indicators that you nailed it the prior day. Did I personally nail it? Not very much. My HRV is up. That's fantastic. My heart rate is down. Fantastic. I'm batting 2 for 2. My power ratio is down. I'm 3 for 3. However, my total power is down 11%. My low frequency, which is the sympathetic branch, is down almost 12%. My high frequency power, which is my parasympathetic, the recovery, rest, digest, is down 7.5%. So I'm going to be watching my power over the next couple of days. I need to be doing things to relax and allow myself to recover some of this power, although my power numbers are nowhere near anything of concern. Optimal numbers are 1,000 for each of these or better. I'm well beyond that. I'm nowhere near a danger point for my ratio, which would be over 10. So while I'm watching them, there's not much of an alert or an emergency. I just want to make sure I don't continue to get several days building up so that cumulatively it starts to become an issue. That's part of the power in the HRV system. They give you the information to take a look at these. Over the week, my HRV is up, my heart rate's down, my power is up. So on the week, okay, I'm doing really well. On the month, same thing. HRV's up from the prior month. My heart rate's down from the prior month. My total power is up from the prior month. My power balance is down. So I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This was a good time to make this video because I'm 7 for 7 and I'm showing all the good things that happen. All right, so this concludes the Personal Pro dashboard training as far as how to look at the numbers and walk through what they mean. And you can see that At any time, I did not ever look at just one number. Each number correlated to something else or several other things in order to mutually agree and point me in a direction as far as what to consider and possible actions to take. Next video, we'll be looking at the trends for the charting functions. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.